Breaking now. Congress has written a new deadline into this year's defense bill that could force a sweeping change in how the United States military sources electronic displays. The tiny, indispensable screens found in everything from soldier handhelds to fighter jet cockpits. Lawmakers want reliance on China and certain other foreign suppliers ended by the year 2030. It sounds like a tech industry memo, but make no mistake, this is national security writ large. The provision, tucked into the National Defense Authorization Act, asks the Pentagon for a full map of its display needs through the year 2040, and a plan to break any dependence on foreign suppliers, not just China, but Russia and others as well, with a progress report due to Congress in March 2027. Why displays? They are everywhere. Ruggedized tablets that accompany infantry patrols, helmet displays for pilots, rugged screens in armored vehicles, and control panels on critical platforms. Lose control of that supply chain, and you put logistics, readiness, and even battlefield situational awareness at risk. Over the last decade, Chinese firms have surged in the display sector, moving from commodity making to designing higher-end panels. Companies such as BOE have won major contracts in the consumer market, including for smartphones, shifting the market share once dominated by Japanese and South Korean suppliers. That commercial inroads translate into industrial clout, and that matters to the Pentagon. Critics say the step is overdue if a future conflict disrupts supply lines. Military procurement could be left scrambling. Supporters counter that decoupling is costly and technically difficult. Modern displays require advanced fabrication, clean rooms, specialized chemicals, and intricate supply ecosystems. The question is, can the United States rebuild or reshore enough capacity fast enough and at an acceptable price? The bill sets a hard date, 2030. That gives the Pentagon 5 years to pivot supply chains for screens used across its platforms. It also asks for a strategic look out to 2040, essentially forcing planners to imagine the next generation of conflicts and the hardware those fights will require. Practically speaking, the Pentagon will need to catalog every display it uses, the type, the criticality, alternatives, and where each component comes from. Then, it must identify vulnerabilities and lay out how to replace foreign-supplied parts or qualify domestic alternatives. That means money, industrial policy, and, well, time. Building domestic display capacity is not as simple as flipping a switch. It requires specialized manufacturing, clean rooms, thin film processes, advanced materials. Beyond the panels themselves, there are drivers, controllers, bonding processes, entire ecosystems that must be nurtured. The United States has strengths in design and systems integration, but large-scale panel fabrication has concentrated in East Asia. The measure emerged from a bipartisan committee and could be voted on this week. If the bill becomes law, it still requires the president's signature to take effect. That final step will be watched closely, since the mandate touches both industrial policy and trade relationships. Industry reaction is split. Suppliers worry about the cost and the time horizon. Defense contractors will face new certification and sourcing headaches. But for smaller firms in the United States, this is an opening. A chance to capture government contracts, scale manufacturing, and build resilient supply chains that can outlast politics. There are also economic ripple effects. If the Pentagon shifts procurement, it reshapes demand across the industry, affecting consumer device suppliers, multinational component vendors, and export markets. Nations like Japan and South Korea, traditional display powerhouses, have also lost market share to Chinese firms, a shift with geopolitical consequences. Imagine a high-intensity incident where supply lines via commercial channels are suddenly constrained. Without qualified domestic sources, urgent repairs, upgrades, or even new production could be hamstrung. That's the national security logic driving lawmakers to demand the mapping and the timeline. So what happens next? The Pentagon will begin the audit and planning process immediately if the bill becomes law. Lawmakers will expect hard milestones, vendor lists, test regimes, cost estimates, and timelines. The March 2027 checkpoint will be the first consequential moment, the first big public accounting of progress. The American industrial response could take many forms: public investment to subsidize new fabs, procurement guarantees to spur private investment, or partnerships with allies who still maintain fabrication capacity. Each path has trade-offs: speed versus cost, scale versus security. The Pentagon's planners will have to balance those here and now. At a geopolitical level, this shift is another chapter in a broader move to de-risk critical supply chains from potential adversaries. It's not just about screens, it's about chips, rare materials, and everything in between. Displays are the latest front where commerce and security collide. For U.S. service members on the front lines, the goal is simple: keep equipment reliable and available when it matters most. For policymakers, the challenge is harder: how to realign global supply chains without crippling the defense budget and without sparking unintended diplomatic fallout. This is more than procurement redirection. It is a strategic gambit in the competition for technological independence. The outcome will shape how the United States prepares its forces for the next decade, and who builds the screens those forces will depend on. We will follow this story closely. I'm Chris. Thanks for watching.